Hello, my name's Mike Calvin. I'm joined by Jason Burt of the Sunday Telegraph, Rory Smith of the Times and Adrian Clarke, the footballer turned journalist. Arsene Wenger to PSG. It's not a new rumour, but the timing of its revival is intriguing. Will he stay or go?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the Daily Telegraph hit this story very, very hard the other day, basically suggesting that PSG were quite confident they'd got Wenger. As you say, it's not new in terms of the link, and I'm sure they would desperately like to have Arsene Wenger as their next manager, take over from Carlo Ancelotti, who we all expect to leave this summer. And I think there will be an interesting sort of, I hate to use the phrase managerial merry-go-round because they never actually end up happening, but there is a possibility of something similar to that happening this summer with some of the biggest clubs in Europe actually in the market for a new coach or manager. So that link is not new, it's not unexpected. The development seems to be that they seem confident that they're going to get him. I know people have been sort of dismissive of the story in the last 24 hours, but I'm told it's very well sourced. And Paul Hayward wrote the story from the Telegraph, good journalist who's got good contacts, and I think he's quite confident there is a strong possibility of it happening. What would be the most remarkable, or two most remarkable things? One, it would mean Wenger breaks a contract, which he says he'll never do. And secondly, the idea of him going from Arsenal to PSG and the amount of money they spent, how evangelical he's been about the idea of not doing this sort of thing, it would really be sort of moving over to the dark side, really, for him. So I think those are the sort of barriers to it. Plus also, he probably feels, as yet, there's still unfinished business at Arsenal, but PSG seem confident.
Is this also indicative of a little bit of sort of murmuring behind hands in boardrooms? You know, we have the situation with Usmanov now and you know, the whole antipathy towards Stan Kroenke. What's going on?
Well, Usmanov basically seems to... Usmanov, by all accounts, is a genuine Arsenal fan. That's the first thing that should be pointed out. He's not kind of an Abramovich figure who
You're saying Stan Kroenke? He's not?
He's saying that, Rory, sorry. I've actually met him, and there was one of those sort of strange sort of conversations. We said, well, name the Arsenal team. And he couldn't do it at that time. But I think he's probably genned up a bit since then.
That's his point, though, isn't it? That there's no superstars left. That's what Usmanov has said, so maybe that explains why he can't name them.
This was quite some time ago. But I mean, I don't think he's sort of being a fan as a long-standing...
No, I assume he didn't grow up.
I don't think he predates Thierry Henry.
No, OK. He seems to genuinely want an investment, his investment to work. I think that's fair. He wants a successful club, and he feels that the self-sustainability policy is holding them back. I think probably there's quite a lot of Arsenal fans who maybe agree with that. The issue is, of course, that Stan Kroenke and Ivan Gazidis and the powers that be at the club at the moment, despite Usmanov having 29.3% or whatever it is of the shares, won't allow him a place on the board. They don't want his money. They give the impression that they don't want him there at all. That creates uncertainty to an extent, but then I think it's so well known that Kroenke won't sell, won't let Usmanov on the board, that I don't think it affects the day-to-day. And then you have the fact that Wenger buys into the Gazidis and Kroenke approach. So Wenger doesn't want Usmanov either. So everyone seems to be pushing in the same direction, apart from this one person who sort of has an awful lot of money and is saying, well, hang on, this isn't working. Again, I think it would be easy to understand why Arsenal fans would sympathise with that view.
But it's, you know, you follow the club closely, Adrian. You've got a raft of young players on long-term contracts now. You've got financial fair play allegedly coming in. Surely, why would he leave?
I don't think he will leave at all. I'm pretty certain he'll stay until the end of his contract. He's building a fresh young team. He's got a good British core. I think it was great business, actually. For once, Arsenal got in early and got all their talented British youngsters signed up on long-term deals. The mentality of the team seems to be changing. They seem to have learned from their mistakes. There's a much more resolve within the side at the moment. And I think the team is heading in the right direction. I think with heavy-ish investment in greater quality this summer, allied with what they've produced in this latter part of the season, I can see next year being a really positive one for Arsenal. They're not going to win the league next season, but I do believe that they're on the right path to bridging the gap, and I can't see Wenger walking away from it.
But the question surely is whether Wenger spends that money. If it's, I'm the same. I think he will stay. I think although Jason's right that there may well be kind of a carousel kind of effect in Europe this summer. I think it's actually come a year too soon in terms of replacements for Arsenal.
Yeah.
If it was 2014 and PSG were thinking we're going to get Wenger, I'd think there is still the issue.
But the suggestion is that they are prepared to wait for that year anyway.
Yeah, but possibly I'm not entirely certain what Carlo Ancelotti's done wrong, to be perfectly happy. By all accounts, he's not desperately happy.
Well, I don't think his relationship with Leonardo is the best, is it? I mean, obviously they're going to win the league, but they haven't haven't been convincing. Actually, I thought they did very well in the Champions League. They didn't lose a game. They were very well set up. I think they play quite well at times. But I think it's more the personal relationship between those two.
But then you have the other issue that, by all accounts, Ancelotti's on Real Madrid's list to replace Mourinho, but he's behind Villas-Boas. So you then get the issue, does Ancelotti jump? Is he pushed? Where does he go? He won't go if there's no job waiting for him. But then I think Carlo would probably quite like the Arsenal job. So there's all these kind of different factors at play. And to be honest, I guess at this stage of the season, there's a lot of clubs out there talking to a lot of people.
Well, let's be quite radical now and talk about football for a second. Champions League. Will Arsenal qualify?
I think they will. The momentum's with them. They're playing very well at the moment. I thought they should have put Manchester United to bed in the first half of that game. They weren't at it, and Arsenal were really on song. And I think if they maintain that attitude, which they've had for a number of weeks now, they've just had this eye of the tiger look about them, a steel in their eye, where they don't want to be beaten. And you know, the Everton game was a good example, that they come up against Everton, who were on fire that night. They played out of their skins, yet still Arsenal managed to get a point. And I think that was good enough points to get over the line, and that ultimately Chelsea and Spurs might trip each other up.
And pretty easy running now, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got a good run in. I mean, I've got to say, I think I've watched them quite a bit recently. I think they've been a little fortunate, actually, to be still where they are.
Yeah, I'll tell you what,
I've got to say, the Eye of the Tiger's not a bit more pussycat to me.
Well, no, I disagree. I think that
you when they against Fulham.
Yes, they didn't play well against Fulham, but that's a game that they would have lost previously. They still had a little bit of more nous about them to get over the line. They found a way to win. Look, Arsenal
they've done brilliantly. They've done brilliantly to close the gap. I mean, that's the thing. When they lost to Tottenham, it was 7 points. It looked like it was all over. They did absolutely fantastically well to refocus and go again. And I think really they are benefited from the fact they've done this before quite a lot. Whereas obviously Spurs are a little bit in uncharted territory. And there must be some sort of mental thing going on at Tottenham, because they've fallen down before, you know, at this sort of stage.
Hold tight, Arsenal fans. It might get a bit bumpy. Thanks for joining us on lifesapitch.co.uk.